Well, here we are. We're at a coffee club the morning after Rangers were knocked out of the Champions League. Their 2-0 defeat to Dynamo Kyiv. With me, David Friel this morning. Bill Lecky's still in his adventures abroad. David, for Rangers, it was a hugely disappointing night, wasn't it? A lot happened at Hampden. Nothing seemed to go right for Philip Clement's side, and ultimately Rangers are out.
Yeah, so much happened that I'm sure we'll go into in great detail, Robert. But yeah, for the overall purpose of Rangers trying to get to the Champions League, that dream's dead. As Philip Clement said, it was killed stone dead last night. It's now Europa League. I think over the balance of the two games, we can discuss whether Rangers deserve to get through, but you know, it's just going over the background of two games where Rangers are ultimately out the tournament.
The key decision obviously was the red card midway or early in the second half, and that was a huge moment. Jeff J, second yellow card, and for me an absolutely diabolical decision. The Italian referee, how he comes to the conclusion that challenge, the second challenge, the yellow card, I have no idea. You can understand why Rangers are so irate about that decision, can't you? Because I thought it was appalling.
Normally when these decisions are made, Robert, you always find there's maybe a 60-40 split, 50-50 split. Some people will argue, oh no, it was a yellow card, it was a foul. I don't think it was a foul, I don't think it was a yellow card, and I don't know anybody who did. And I don't know what the referee thought he saw. I'll be honest with you, and we spoke about this last night, I did think Jeffrey was sailing close to the wind after his first yellow card, and I was surprised that Philip Clement kept him on for the second half. He withdrew Ross McCausland. I would have taken off Jeffrey just purely because I think Dynamo Kyiv players realised he was on the yellow, or maybe playing for it. But that doesn't excuse the referee for making one of the worst decisions I have ever seen. Philip Clement says it's the worst he's seen in 30 years. I don't know about that, but it is a horrendous decision, and whether Rangers would have went through, we'll never know. But certainly at that moment, the chance is gone.
They've certainly had a better chance with 11 men in the park. I don't think Rangers played particularly well, and we'll come to that in a minute, but that's a huge decision. You know, that's cost Rangers a lot of money. And you saw the Philip Clement post-match going onto the pitch and remonstrating with the referee, which I fully could understand. But that's a decision that's going to cost Rangers a lot of money.
Yeah, of course it is, and I think there's also it's a bad decision, but I think in the bigger picture, I think VAR, one of the things, and we could spend 5 shows talking about VAR, the pros, the cons, and everything. But I get that they don't want to go over every single yellow card, because you would be there all day if you're reviewing everything. But I think game-changing decisions, if it's a second yellow card that leads to a red card, the referee should be able to go and have another look, because that is just as defining as a straight red card would be. And I think you could see the frustration in Jeffrey, and you always know from a player's frustrations, a player's reaction, you always can tell. He knew it wasn't a foul. Philip Clement knew it wasn't a foul. I think Dynamo Kyiv probably knew it wasn't a foul. So for him to be red carded, for Rangers have to play 40 minutes then with 10 men, was so, you know, Philip Clement last night used the word unjust. I think that's pretty much sums it up. And for me, in that moment, Rangers' chances were over.
Yeah, if anything, if the referee thinks that's a red card challenge, it's a red card. You know what I mean? If he thinks he's elbowed him, you know, it's a straight red card, and then it would be rescinded, then they could look at it in VAR. But to actually think it was a yellow card, I just found
football's changed, Robert. Football has changed in terms of the physicality, and you can't go on like you used to. But again, if you put 100 people and told them to watch that clip, I don't think anyone would have given a yellow card for that. I don't think many would have given a foul. So I can understand the frustrations for Rangers, totally.
Yeah. That said, Philip Clement was talking about his team being on top, his team being the better team over 2 legs. For me, there was very little in it, if anything, between both teams. What about the Rangers performance? Because up to that point, choking here, I didn't think Rangers were playing well. I didn't think they were grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck like they had to in the second leg at home in a European game like that.
I think they were competing and there were some nice passages of play, but I didn't ever think Rangers were in total control. I think Dynamo Kyiv, I'd be surprised if they get through the group stages. I think they have some nice players. I think they lack a bit of pace and intensity at times. I think the game was there for Rangers, but as you're saying, they never really grabbed it with the scruff of the neck. You know, I think Rangers, if you look at their squad currently, a couple of injuries obviously, but if you look at the squad compared to last season, and everybody wanted changes last season, I think the squad is weaker. I think he's asking a lot of guys like Connor Barn, who I actually thought was excellent last night. I think he's asking a lot of him to come in and be the main man in midfield. Mohamed Diamandi having to play every minute, Cyril Dessers up front having to play every minute. I think it's a lot for those guys to be asked to do. And then on the periphery of them, I don't think you've got guys either good enough or in form just now, or fully fit, in terms of Cherny obviously come off the bench at half time. So I think it's a bad mix for Rangers right now. Did they do enough over the 2 legs? I don't think they probably did. You know, while we've spoke about the red card and how it was unjust, I think Rangers over the 2 legs, that tie was there. That's a winnable tie for me. against Dynamo Kyiv, and I don't think they did enough.
Yeah, and I think the next tie was potentially winnable for them as well. Again, we'll never know, but Salzburg are 20. You know, it's not as if Rangers were going to be going top level team in the next round. I think this is a huge missed opportunity for them.
We all remember going back and covering these Champions League qualifiers when Celtic went in, or Rangers went in, you think they've got no chance up against Arsenal and teams like that. This wasn't. This was a pathway that Rangers, I think, as you said, last night was winnable. The next round would have been winnable. And it's a chance missed, and it's a very costly chance missed because this is going to alter what Philip Clement gets to do for the rest of the transfer window and beyond.
What do you think of Cyril Dessers? Because there was a moment, second half, I think, when things were going against Rangers, there was a lot of frustration in the air, and the fans, I think, were annoyed that he didn't hold it in, which he often doesn't do, and there was a groan, and he reacted to it. Is that, how do you feel about that? Some fans, I think, or some people will think that's unacceptable, but maybe some others will say, it's a natural reaction. He's frustrated, everyone's frustrated, but where do you sit in that one? Because I thought it was a little, if you're a Rangers fan, I can understand the frustration in that moment.
Yeah, I can. There's a bit of dubiety whether, I don't know whether Cyril Dessers will say that he was actually moaning at the referee or the linesman or something like that, but there's a groan obviously from the fans as well. What I'm going to say about Cyril Dessers is I feel really sorry for him right now. I don't think he could be given any more for Rangers, and I think he's been asked to do too much. He's getting no help. You watched the last 10 minutes of that game last night. Robin Propper is up front with him. Rangers are so light in attack. I don't know what's going on with Danilo in terms of his injury. He's on the bench but he's not getting on. Igamani has never been seen. I think Cyril Dessers, for a guy who gets so much criticism, and look, he does miss chances. We've seen it this season. He can score goals, but he can miss chances. But he's been asked to go to the well time and time again, play 90 minutes after 90 minutes. Last night he was completely isolated for long spells, especially with the 10 men. I think he's doing as well as he possibly can. I think it gets a bit of a raw deal, and I can probably understand his frustrations, whether it was the fans, whether it was the linesman, whoever. I can understand his frustrations, because for me, he's a guy who has given absolutely everything for Rangers.
We'll come to Celtic in a minute and their situation with Adam Idah and bringing in strikers. Is that been an issue for Rangers because they've not done it either? You know, they've got Danilo there who's coming back from a long-term injury, clearly nowhere near fit enough. He's on the bench last night, so we'll maybe come to him in a minute as well. But is that an area where Rangers should have strengthened and gone and made a difference? Because, as you say, to lessen the load that's on Cyril Dessers' shoulders.
Yeah, Rangers should have signed a striker in January, and that's even with Danilo and Dessers. Now, Philip Clement will say, well, he signed Igamani to come in for the future. Rangers need players right here and now. You'll always get this Lawrence Shankland debate, right? And whether it's Lawrence Shankland or someone else, Rangers need a guy to basically, share a bit of the burden. Danilo has been out for 7 months. He's clearly been nursed back to fitness. We don't know when he's going to be ready to start games. I don't think you can ask Cyril Dessers, a guy who, as I say, gets such a raw deal, to just go time and time again. Rangers need more options there. They need more options in January, and it comes back to my earlier point about, I think the Rangers squad this season, with this rebuild starting, all the players going, is far weaker. Because Kamar Ruth's also, although he was injury prone, Kamar Ruth's also out of the building since then too.
The Danilo one's a strange one, isn't it? Because he's been out for 7 months. He came back, I saw him pre-season game in Berlin a few weeks ago. He came off the bench, looked okay, clearly rusty, not played a lot of football. And I know there was substitutions yesterday and last night, and it affected things, but it he seems a mile off it. And there was that video of him limping into the stadium last night. Again, it didn't. I mean, the explanation from Philip Clement, I'm not sure that held much water either. What do you think about Danilo?
Well, he's clearly not right yet. It's been a long time out. It's a knee injury. But my point would be, if he's not ready to come on and play 5 minutes for a game when you need a goal, or 10 minutes for a game when you need a goal, why is he on the bench? But there's no point to him being on the bench. You just say Philip Clement, that video put out by Rangers social media channels before the game, and he was kind of almost seemed to be walking for a limp. He said that's just how he walks, which I think probably came as a surprise to everybody. We can pour over that at a later date, but my point would be, if he's not ready, he has to go and do more fitness work to get ready, because it looked very, very odd last night when Rangers are chasing a £40 million jackpot. They need goals, albeit they're down to 10 men, that you don't put a £5-6 million striker on the pitch.
Yeah. Where does this leave Philip Clement? Because I've got a degree of sympathy for him. I like the way he speaks generally. I think he comes across as an honest guy. You ask him a question, you seem to pretty much get an honest answer out of him, which isn't always the case with some managers, as you well know. Where does this leave him? Because the performances, we'll come back to it, wasn't great. There's mitigating circumstances there with the red card and various other things, but where does this leave him in what's to come? Europa League, it's not the end of the world for Rangers. They're going to Europa League, which is probably it's going to be a little bit tough test for them anyway, but missing out on the money, the way the team played, where do you think this leaves him?
I don't think it really changes that much right now, because I don't think you would have found many Rangers fans, although we spoke about the winnable ties, who expected Rangers to get to the Champions League. So I think he's probably been given a bit of leeway, especially with the turnover of players.
That's only going to last so long, wasn't it?
That was my next point. You don't get patience in Glasgow. So you get it to a point, but then it goes. Now Rangers now, where does it leave them? I think European wise, Europa League will be a tough challenge, but it's probably right for Rangers right now in terms of where they can go and potentially compete. I think it all has to go in domestic for Philip Clement and Rangers now. I think he has to go first things first, beat St Johnstone in the Premier Sports Cup this weekend, and then just challenge Celtic, get into a rhythm of domestic, just churning out win after win and try and get a settled team. But what I think he needs to do in the next couple of weeks, and again we spoke about how much the money aspect will change from last night, he needs to get 3 or 4 players in. I think Rangers look miles short. I mean, Todd Cantwell's still in the building, doesn't want to play. Yanis Hadji's still a Rangers player, they can't play him. You've got others, Nico Raskin's injured, Van Yilmaz got injured last night, Cortez is injured. I think Rangers look really, really light in terms of squad. I think there's still guys he clearly wants rid of, but I think for Philip Clement to get time to do the rebuild in the short term, he needs to bring in a couple of guys, even if it's a short term fix, especially in the middle of the park and especially up front.
You get the impression that's what it's going to be, isn't it? It's going to be maybe loans that they bring in now. I think that they'll go from one extreme probably to the other. If they got into the Champions League or got through this, even if they got through last night, that was worth $4 and a bit million to them. If they get through that would have been a huge boost for them. So it's a huge difference now what they're going to be working with, what he's going to have to play with.
See that money last night? That should never be discounted. That's more than you get probably for winning the Scottish Premiership. That was a hefty amount of money. And then you add in, he spoke last night himself. He put a figure on it, £40 million. That's probably before all the gate receipts you would get from those games. 4 home games this time. So listen, it's a huge financial blow. As you said, short-term fix. Does it mean you just go and get a kind of battle-hardened guy in the middle of the park to take a bit of the burden off the Amandi and Barnes we spoke about? I don't know. I just think he has to now. He signed these projects. He's got 4 or 5 guys in he thinks will make Rangers money in the future. He has to now sign guys for the here and now, guys that can go and make an impact and go and try and mount some form of challenge to Celtic.
That's a word he uses or has used a few times, project. And I don't think any Rangers manager can have a project at Rangers. I just don't think they have the time for that. I don't think they get the scope for that, and I think that's something he might learn in the next few months, that talking about a project continuously isn't going to sit well with the Rangers fans. They want it here and now, and as much as Celtic are ahead of them considerably, I would say right now, talking about a project I don't think sits well with it.
You can talk about it in theory, and John Bennett did it in his address to the fans a couple of weeks ago and spoke about the fact that this is going to take a bit of time. But see, in theory that's fine, and fans will say, right, we're going to trust him, we're going to buy into his project, etc, etc. But as you're saying, see come a month's time, if Rangers are 6, 7, 8 points behind Celtic, that goes out the window. I always think you can have an eye in the future, but it's all about here and now in this city. Yeah,
and as you say, they play St Johnstone at Hampden 5:45 on Saturday. That's a huge game for them, isn't it? They have to bounce back, and listen, the Rangers fans will turn out, you'd imagine. I don't know what the crowd will be right enough if it'll be down on what it was last night, but there has to be a reaction from as much as the disappointment, the red card, everything else. They have to just win that game.
Yeah, and it's again, it's going to take a big effort. Rangers have obviously now got a free midweek next week, so he's probably going to go with the same guys to go again. Craig Levein, Wiley manager, will come. He'll have St Johnstone hard to beat. They've got pace up front, Kimpioka and Sidibe. I think St Johnstone will have a go. I don't think it really played that much a part last night. I actually think Hampden's a big disadvantage for Rangers. I just think you would rather be playing at Ibrox. You would rather have your home crowd, your home stadium, everything about it. I think it's a disadvantage. I don't think it will hold as much fear for St Johnstone going to Hampden as it would Ibrox. It's a tricky tie. St Johnstone, beat Killie last week. Very good Killie team, and they did it. They've got a bit of power, they've got a bit of pace. So it's a tricky tie. But as I said, Philip Clement now has to focus on domestic stuff for me. Europe now for Rangers, Europa League, it's just a bonus. It's all about domestic stuff.
Well, there's still European opportunity there, I'm going to say, for 2 of our teams, St Mirren and Kilmarnock playing tonight. Kilmarnock in Tromsø, Kenny McDonald there for us. He's covering that game almost at the Arctic Circle, as he keeps reminding us. And Bill Leckie's in Bergen, Branbergen with St Mirren. How do you rate their chances as we sit here just now? The game tomorrow night, both games tomorrow night, they've both got draws to take into the second leg. I was at St Mirren game last week and I thought Bran were really good. So I actually fear a little bit for St Mirren getting into this second leg, albeit I hope they do well. And Killie as well, they're up against a decent team. What do you think?
I'll go with St Mirren first, Robert. One of the things I love most in football is a grudge match. And this is a grudge match. all the stuff about
what did
the
you think
bad
of it?
sportsmanship.
What did you think of it?
I think St Mirren were quite right to do what they did. Quite right to do, because
Absolutely.
see if someone has a head knock or clearly been injured in a foul, whatever, then I think it's very unregulated, that rule, in terms of kick it out, give it back. Sometimes you don't. But see if somebody's clearly down time wasting, why should you give them the ball back?
Yeah.
Because they'll probably waste a wee bit of time anyway doing it. So why give them an extra advantage by giving them the ball back? But I just love the fact there's a bit of spice to that game.
Yeah.
I think that will be a really, really good game for the neutral, for everybody. And look, St Mirren, Stephen Robinson has done an amazing job for me. I think he's built a really good squad. I think he's got a good variety in his squad. Seems to be a good togetherness as well. He seems to lose players but then bring them back. Bring others in, bring replacements in, and they don't seem to miss a beat.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough test for them though. For all it's a grudge match and it's spicy, I think Brann are a good side. Everybody spoke to say they knocked the ball about really well, going well in the Region League as well. So I think St Mirren, I think they'll give it all. I think it's going to take a monumental effort to get a result there. But I'd love to see them go through. Kilmarnock, I think they probably let themselves down in the first leg. I don't think Tromsø were great shakes. I think defensively, very unlike a Derek McInnes team. They've been giving away soft goals. Even in the game against Cercle Bruges over there, it was kind of comedy errors. So I think Kilmarnock have potentially actually got a better chance than St Mirren, but I think they really need to raise their game and they need big performances from your Danny Armstrongs, Kyle Vassell's, etc.
It'd be great if these teams, St Mirren and Killie, could get a performance, get a result, get a wee bit of luck, get a bit of break that our teams don't ever seem to get at that stage. We see it time and again where they can give plucky performances, they can do relatively well, but they maybe just fall short. It'd be fantastic if both of them could get through. It would be a huge shot in the arm for them.
And we've seen in kind of recent years teams from like the Irish League, your Dundalks and stuff like that, getting to group stages. If you look at provincial smaller clubs, and people have said, why can't Scottish teams do it? And I agree with you. I think we need it's a mixture of break, it's a mixture of getting some belief, some bravery. But I think what gives St Mirren and Kilmarnock a right good chance is they've got two managers who won't entertain excuses. They won't be going in with a inferiority complex or thinking we shouldn't be here, blah blah blah. I think those two managers will be setting high standards, setting high targets for the players, and I think I'd love to see them both go through. I've got a feeling only one will go through, and I think Kilmarnock may have a better chance.
Yeah, I must admit, I fear you might be right. I'd love St Mirren to get through, but I agree with you as well. I think that incident, as much as I think St Mirren, Sean Rooney did the absolutely right thing, if the Brann goalkeeper should have kicked it into St Mirren half, and it wouldn't have happened. He was stupid enough to do that, so I don't have any issue with that whatsoever, but I do think it's riled them into thinking that there was an issue there, and I think they were a good team. I actually quite enjoyed the way they played, as much as I was wanting St Mirren to do well. I thought they were a good team to watch, and I think it might be a difficult night for Stephen Robinson and his buddies. But we wish them well. Hopefully by this time next week we're talking about two huge results for Scottish teams. What about Celtic? We'll come to them. As we sit here right now, they've not yet got Adam Idah in the building. They've been talking about it for, I don't know how long, months, it seems.
I had no grey hair when Celtic started.
I did, to be fair. But what do you make of it? It seems to have dragged on and on. It's going to get done. Listen, we know it's going to get done. There's a deal there in place, albeit some of the figures that are being bandied around, David, as we are led to believe, I think quite extraordinary that Celtic are paying the money that they're reportedly paying.
You sometimes get a phrase within a kind of period of football, and my favourite one of this transfer window has been guaranteed bonuses. What does that mean? It's all kind of coming from the Norwich end.
That's part of the feeding, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's all coming from the Norwich end that the fee Celtic are paying is 8.5 million, but it includes guaranteed bonuses. So what that means, I have no idea, and then there's potential add-ons, there's a sell-on, etc. I think Norwich have got a good deal. I think on the face of it,
a good deal.
But well, I'm going to come back to it. I've changed my mind in this. So when we first heard this fee, we were working in the story and speaking to people and thinking that seems very, very high. But then I've always felt over the last couple of weeks when Celtic are toughing out bid after bid for Matt O'Reilly and basically saying we want the going rate, then I always felt that lowballing offers for Adam Idah at 4 million, 4.5 million, whatever it was never really going to work. To me it was a contradiction there. So I think Norwich have basically held out for what they feel is a going rate, and I think Celtic in the end, whether the fee is 6 million up front plus the bonuses, whatever it is, right, we don't know. I think they've basically paid the going rate. He's 23, he's a full international, over 20 caps, he scored for his country, he's got 3 years left in his contract, which I think was a real bargaining tool for Norwich, and he's got potential.
Here's one for you. Will Celtic make money in Adam Idah?
I think Brendan Rodgers will feel Celtic will make money in Adam Idah. I think what he's done is sign a player who potentially could. I think at 23 he's
there's no
certainly got progress.
There's
no guarantees, but 23 he's certainly got progress ahead of him. But I think what they've done is, listen, no transfer is a surefire thing. There's always risk with every transfer, but Celtic have tried before they bought him. I think you know that he is going to be a better player than, for example, O, who left the building for about £3 or £4 million. I think he's a guy, if you look at some of the strikers Celtic have signed and spent fair bits of money on, Albion Ajeti, I think it's over £5 million for him. I can understand why Brendan Rodgers thinks, this guy knows the club, he knows how to play, he's got progress to go on him, push the ball out and get this guy in. And I think Brendan Rodgers, having looked at the work he's done with Matt Riley, even in the last 12 months, Matt Riley, when Brendan Rodgers came in, wasn't a £25 million football player. I think Brendan Rodgers will feel he can make a profit on Adam Idah. But Robert also says, you don't make a profit on every player. Sometimes a player is just a good sign.
No, but that's the Celtic model, isn't it? Yeah. The Celtic, first and foremost, I think, they look at it and think, if we're paying this, then what do we go out with?
But I think,
which I think is fair enough.
I think it's fair enough as well, but not every transfer can be like that. No. Not every transfer can be a gem or a project. And for me, Celtic will probably end up signing guys in this window who they feel can develop. But I think sometimes you just need to bite the bullet and pay the money for a guy who you know is going to come in, hit the ground running, improve your team, and be a massive contributor to your team. And I think, as we saw with Adam Idah, he was only in the building for 4 months last season. Yeah. Some of these game-changing, decisive contributions, call it what you want, will probably say that, he might repay that fee in time. Yeah, no,
I personally think it's a good signing. I think it was a no-brainer for them to get it done, but I don't know why the club dragged their heels on it. I don't know why they didn't do it in June or get it done in place before even the end of the season to get it done. I know maybe that was difficult because Adam Idah wasn't sure where Norwich were going to be. There would have been financial rewards for him potentially if they'd get promoted. That didn't happen, so maybe that muddied the waters there. But at the same time, Celtic did what they always do by dragging their heels on a transfer that for me should have been easy, to get Adam Idah in weeks ago, if not months ago.
I'll ask you a question on this. What's better value, Adam Idah for that fee or Bojan Miovski to Girona for just under £7 million?
Well, I think Celtic would have been better buying Bojan Miovski, or trying to get Bojan Miovski.
Do you know what I would have done? I'd have signed both of them.
Yeah.
I genuinely would have signed both of them. I think Celtic will look back on Miovski as a chance missed. For me, Celtic need to look at the striking department. Kyogo isn't getting any younger. He recently changed agents, which you don't do for no reason. He's obviously got the shoulder problem, popped out again at the weekend. I think Kyogo's going into his 4th season with Celtic. He's not going to hang about forever. I think Celtic should have started the succession planning by buying Miovski and Adam Idah. And I know it'll be a lot of money, big outlay, but if you bring the two of them in, you're pretty much guaranteeing domestic dominance, and I think it gives you a far better chance in Europe, because I think Bojan Miovski in time will become a very, very expensive footballer. I think he's absolutely excellent.
Excuse me, I couldn't agree with you more, but if you were going to pick one of them, who would you have picked? You'd have picked Miovski.
I might have picked Idah.
Would you? Yeah,
maybe.
Seriously.
But I don't think it's too much between them. I think Girona have got a really good deal. I think Aberdeen buying him for £500,000 and selling him on.
I'm not saying that as a criticism of Adam Idah, because I think he did brilliantly when he went into Celtic last season, and I think he's, as I say, a no-brainer. The club should have been signing him. I think he'll do well. I think he'll do really well. I think potentially he'll score a lot of goals for Celtic. But I'm just saying, between them, if you're choosing, then I think Miovski is arguably a better player. But you're right, it's a good point. Celtic have certainly got the money there. They've got the money there to do it. What else do you expect in Celtic wise in terms of transfers? What do you think they need? Because they haven't done a whole lot of business.
I think Celtic need a left back to provide competition to Greg Taylor. I think Greg Taylor's much maligned. Thought he was excellent again at the weekend. I think he's a guy who, for me, one of Celtic's most pressing matters would be giving him a new contract. I would keep him. I think he's a very, very good player, underrated player. I would imagine Nawrocki and Lagerbielke could possibly exit, especially Lagerbielke before the end of the window, so I would bring a centre-half in, but I would actually probably bring a centre-half in who, for me, would be pushing to start. There's no point in bringing cover in. I think Liam Scales has done well, but I think, again, needs competition, needs guys to share the load. Celtic need a Matt Riley replacement, probably, I would imagine. Brendan Rodgers is on record saying that he wants a younger striker to compete with Kyogo and Idah. and I still think he's looking for some form of attacking player, whether it's a winger, whether it's a number 10. So that would maybe potentially be another 5 signings.
That's a lot of business.
It's a lot of business, but I think that's what Celtic need. I don't mean they need it domestically. I think if Celtic are going to go and compete in the Champions League with pot 3 and pot 4 teams, Celtic need to increase the quality. We spoke about Rangers in terms of quality last season. Celtic, as Brendan Rodgers admitted last season, were weaker than they were in Ange Postecoglou's final season, right? They have then since lost players. We've lost guys in the squad, right? He does come back, Bernardo's back, but he wants to take Celtic up a level. Brendan Rodgers has never really had a chance to go and put in the quality players to take, put his own stamp on this team. He's pretty much still working with Ange Postecoglou's team, and it is a lot of business. There's only about 2-3 weeks left in the window, but I still think Celtic would need 5 players in an ideal world.
Well, time will tell on that one whether they get that kind of business done certainly before the transfer window ends, to take into that Champions League campaign. Anyway, never mind that. We're at Bella Vita this morning for Coffee Club, and I tell you what, we have been treated. Mimo, our friend, the owner of this restaurant, this magnificent restaurant, has looked after us royally. David, talk to us through what we've got.
I mean, it looks like carrot cake, it's some form of pastry, nice coffees, but Robert, we did tell him, because I've got holidays coming up, you need to get the beach body ready, but I think the diet can start tomorrow.
I think that ship has sailed, David, frankly. Right, pick a cake,
I need to go for carrot cake.
I'm going for some kind of a clear of some sorts. We're going to start here. So anyway, thanks for joining us in Coffee Club this week. We'll be back some other venue, maybe back here. Going by these, we might very well be back here next week, and we wish the Scottish teams in European games tomorrow night all the very best. In the meantime, cheers, go for it.
Cheers.